Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is that you are and wherever you may be. Thank you very much for making us a part of your day. I am Brad Franklin, a creative content right here in Chesterfield. I'm very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again. Now, in the summer, it was hot, and I had my friend Craig Carper from Dominion Energy come in and talk to us about ways to save during the summer. And I thought, you know what? It's getting cold. Heck, by the time you're listening to this, there could be snow on the ground. Who knows, right? So I thought we'd have Craig come back again after his rousing appearance in episode 53 to talk to us on the flip side, right? How, if it's winter, how do you save money and also stay warm? So first, Craig, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Hey, Brad, I'm doing great. Glad to be here. This is the show. I think it's as fun to be here as it is to listen to. I've had fun listening to a few episodes when I was checking you out when you first got started. It's been a couple years now, right?
Yeah.
And congrats.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
The fact that I've had somebody come in and try to help me save money more than one time is a pretty good step in the right direction. I feel like that's a good place for the show to be, to help not only the listeners, but especially me figure out a way to save a little bit of dough here and there. That's awesome. I know that, this is obviously a busy time for Dominion, and certainly for the work you did. For full disclosure, we were actually scheduled to do this before the storms and everything popped up as you listened to this last week. But in terms of kind of what Dominion does, I'm pretty sure most people understand who Dominion is. It's a company, so it is and is. Who Dominion is and what you guys do. But let's just give them a little bit of a background. Tell us a little bit about Dominion and what you guys are up to.
Sure. Well, we're the largest and oldest utility provider in Virginia, the largest electric provider. We've been around over 100 years, and we're rebranding at the moment just to try to simplify that message. Who are you and what do you do? And what we do is we provide reliable, affordable, and increasingly clean energy. Right. We had a mission statement that was a bit longer than that previously, and we said, no, we've got to simplify. So that's who we are and what we do.
And when you were here last time, when we talked about sort of the summer and heat and ways to stay cool, but also save some money, we talked about wind, we talked about solar, we talked about a lot of the different things, and certainly for that show, we're talking about hurricane preparedness and stuff. So if folks are curious, again, that's episode 53, and I think Craig did a nice job of sort of talking about the full spectrum. Today, we're going to focus a little bit more specifically on just sort of ways to save money and stay warm this winter. Now, I got to tell a little bit of a backstory here. So Craig and I talked before the last episode, and we're kind of going through some of the things we're going to talk about, and we were talking about like, okay, well, what would you set your air conditioning to in the summer? And he gave me a number, and dear listener, when I tell you my jaw dropped when he said 78, and since then, several of you who listen to the show have come up to me in various places and said, essentially, is he nuts? Yeah. Because 78 sounds really hot, and so I got to start here because I'm really curious what your answer is going to be. What's the number in the winter to kind of keep things consistent from both, again, balancing that personal decision and comfort cost piece of the whole thing?
I think I've got some better news this time around.
It better not be 78.
Yeah, 78. What I'll say, and I think I said something to this effect last time, that 78 in the summer, or your whatever your highest tolerance for pain is,
right?
But I think ideally in the mid 70s, if you can do it. I think we're usually sometimes between 72, 74 at our house.
Right.
In the winter, we say the ideal is 68.
Okay, so, that's fair.
I'll say that I can do that most of the time. Maybe every once in a while, I'll bump it to 70.
You can always grab another blanket if you need to.
That's right.
You can always grab another blanket. 68 seems much more reasonable, and probably something, in all honesty, that a lot of people are more comfortable with in general, not just in the respect of comfortable as in terms of the temperature, but comfortable in terms of that's probably a spot where your system is not working too hard to try to keep it to that number. Whereas there are definitely times in the summer where if you had the thing set at 68, 67 degrees, your system is working really hard to get that thing down. And in terms of there were lots of other things that we talked about last time, ways to save. And one of the things I think the through line for that was the time that you're using the energy and the amount of energy you're using when you use it, right? So, for example, one of the things was like running your bigger appliances in the early mornings and the evenings, right? Because, those are the times maybe because the sun's down when the AC units aren't working as hard. Now, in the flip side of that, I would imagine it makes sense to me that when the sun's not out, that is the time when the heaters are working a little harder, right? Because there's no extra, there's no additional help from the environment to warm things up. So in terms of running big appliances in those non-peak times, is that still the same in the winter and just flipped? Is that the way it works?
It's close, but you got to realize that, of course, there's less daylight hours in the winter.
True.
So, you think about when the sun goes down, the temperatures are going to drop. So that's really the main criteria there, main factor. But I think, the guidance it's still good, if you don't need to necessarily change your habits too much. I think for us, I try to change a load of laundry. I'll do a load of laundry, put in one before I go to bed, and then I'll switch it first thing in the morning.
Right.
And then likewise, I'll do the same thing with, dishwasher, all of that. Just, you run anything you got to run, do it, first thing in the morning or right before bed, unless you're in college and you're getting up at, I don't know, maybe 10 or, whatever. But if you're getting up, 6, 7, whatever,
Now, in terms of one thing I was also curious about, and this is something we haven't talked about, so I'm curious to get the answer to, like, I'm curious in terms of energy consumption, summer versus winter. Which one, which one is sort of greater, and what would we attribute that to? Is it one or the other clearly, or are they kind of more similar than maybe some folks would expect?
They're close. They're very close, but I think winter can be a bit tougher.
Interesting,
actually, because you think about it can get the differential sometimes is more that you're trying to bridge the gap between what's cold. I mean, we're looking ahead right now. I don't want to date this too much, but we're more than half the days over the next, looking at the 10-day forecast coming up, it's below freezing temperatures overnight. And some of them are in the teens. So you think about what it takes to get, 14 to 70
is a lot different than 89 to 78.
That's it.
That's a good point.
So and it's the same kind of equation. You're thinking about, okay, it's this cold outside, or same in the summer, it's this hot outside. What's it take to get me somewhere close to comfortable inside my house? And when you compare that to spring or fall, you got to do a little work, but it's not like backbreaking work to get you comfortable in your house.
And we talked too about the idea of, sort of keeping your doors and windows closed. I would imagine a lot of those things still, the same kind of idea, right? If you can trap the heat in your house, you want to keep the heat in your house. We also talk about, peak time. That was a through line too. A lot of what we talked about with the summer piece is, understanding sort of that peak time. Is there a true peak time in the winter months for energy usage, or it's a little bit different?
It's somewhere around, it's fairly consistent, but it's somewhere around like 7 or 8 in the morning. I think it's like 8 in the morning up to like 8 or 9 at night.
Interesting.
So then, outside of that is the best time to, run your major appliances. It's also when, if you've got an EV, as more and more people do now, that's when we recommend you charge is overnight.
Gotcha.
So, and I would say one thing you were talking about, times of day and whatnot, use the sunlight to your advantage. That's a tip, just because you mentioned it, not open every window, but open all the shades first thing in the morning to make sure you're using that natural light to warm your house up a couple degrees, and your HVAC won't have to work quite as hard.
Yeah. And that's also, that's a good point, because, nowadays with smart technology, and I think we're going to get to that here in a few minutes, but you can do a lot of things to sort of let the environment work for you, and also let the robots in your house, so to speak, right? Sort of almost like help you in that endeavor. You know what I mean? Now, in terms of, rate reductions and things of that nature. How does it? What's that mean in terms of the winter months?
So rates are consistent year round. So, but what during the winter months, roughly half of your energy bill, slightly less. I mean, or to maybe right about half, depending on your home, your energy uses, is spent on heating. The next closest thing is lights. So switching to LEDs can certainly make a big difference in lowering that bill. And we had to make a couple painful upgrades over the last few years with HVAC systems, and but once you do bite the bullet and upgrade your system, get a newer system,
right?
The modern ones are more efficient, and you are going to notice savings over time.
Yeah.
So that is something, making sure that you're using like an Energy Star appliance,
right,
will certainly help. There's the savings just of making the upgrade, but there's also rebates that you can apply for to get these appliances and those are that Energy Star label. They're on HVACs, they're on other major appliances.
Say refrigerators, washing machines, all that fun stuff.
And in a lot of cases, there's buybacks, so take advantage of that.
Yeah, and now this might sound like a weird question, and I apologize in advance if it
Love
is.
it.
But as we're talking about this, it occurs to me that there are a lot of situations I think where I'm walking through my house, turning off lights because my 9-year-old is terrible at turning off lights. And I always wonder to myself, am I actually saving any money turning off these little, bulbs? Maybe that light would have been on for another hour and a half, 2 hours, let's say, right? Those little things, my gut says they add up. The suburban dad in me says, yes, we got to turn off those lights, right? But I'm just curious from the energy side, I would imagine one, consumption, anything we can do to limit that is good, and then it's also better for the environment.
Yes.
We're using the less energy we don't need. How would you kind of characterize those kind of small changes? Do they really matter in the bigger scheme of things?
Yes, they do. So you and
all you're doing here is confirming proprietor, so I appreciate that.
That's right, and I think you and I are of similar ages. We've got similar aged children.
Yeah.
And we're probably catching ourselves saying
a lot of things, yes,
that our dads used to say.
100%. And it's it's not a place I want to be. It's very strange. It's like I can hear my dad's words come out. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. But I'm like, why are all these lights on? I mean, I do this all the time, and it's not good.
There's wisdom there. Yeah. The thing that drives me nuts, it's the sliding door. The kids going in and out of the sliding door.
And leaving it open just a little bit.
Leaving that open, leaving the fridge open, that kind of, and that stuff, I mean, that'll really add up. If you, I mean, luckily these fridges now, they'll beep.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they'll beep.
Leave it
that's
open
right. They get annoyed.
But the door does not beep.
The door does not beep. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, they do add up, and it's habit making. It's like, if you catch yourself, oh man, I fell asleep and I didn't turn out the lights downstairs
right.
If forcing yourself to get up that one night to do it,
right,
whatever. But making it habitual.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes,
that's right. That's a good point. Now, in terms of when we talked in the summer, one of the things we really focused on was weatherization, weatherizing your homes, basically kind of doing what we could, following those same sort of strategies, and trying to figure out a way to essentially keep the heat out. Right. Mm-hmm. And as we talked about before, a lot of those same things probably apply here. And I'm curious, what are some of the things or what recommendations would you make for folks in terms of where they should focus their time and attention if they want to look into making their home more energy conscious in terms of the winter months? Is it much the same script, so to speak, from the summer, or are there some differences there?
No, very similar. I think certainly the first rule, certainly anywhere you can see daylight where you shouldn't see daylight, fair. Like around your door jamb,
right?
You want to take care of that, and anywhere where you can feel something, like if you're around a window and you feel like something, a little bit of cold air coming in, right. Try to pinpoint where that is. Where's that coming from? Caulking around windows, ceiling, any available, sometimes like little things like I was watching one of our own videos, and where like cable, like fiber optic lines had been drilled into the home. If
making
you
sure
can go back and seal those, those anything where they're they plumbing, anything that's had to have been drilled into your home.
Right.
Take a look at these things. Make sure that there's they're sealed,
right,
and you're not losing air, because that will really add up. That will probably add up more than the lights.
Yeah, for sure.
But both are good habits.
Yeah. And then and obviously it makes sense, right, that the more you can keep the heat out in the summer, keep the heat in the winter, and essentially keep, especially if you can keep things dry.
Right.
That's beyond, just energy. That's just, good housekeeping, so to speak.
Well, it's like, so going back to the dadisms,
right.
Are you trying to heat the outdoors or are you trying to heat your home?
So true.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the Energy Share, the bill assistance program, I want to talk a little bit about that. I know you had some updates, and I'm curious to kind of hear some of the information you've got to share on those couple things.
On Energy Share and how it works during the winter. So it's much the same concept.
Right.
So Energy Share is it's not income based, but it looks at your situation and what you've got going on.
Right.
We were I was talking to some Energy Share customers recently, and the stories, a lot of these people, they've, maybe there's a divorce or a death in the family, and and your whole economic picture changes.
Right.
Sometimes you're taking care of a sick relative, that kind of thing, any kind of hardship, or even a medical thing that you've got come up. I mean, it can totally change your month-to-month budget and how you do things. And we take all that into account, and you can work through your local Department of Social Services. You can call 211, or you can go to our website, dominionenergy.com/energy share.
Cool. Now, in terms of sort of helping people with their bills and that kind of thing, are there any other programs, anything else that you guys offer that folks should be aware of, or folks should kind of reach out about?
Yes. I mean, there's what I would say, either of those places, you can get, actually the one-stop shop, I would say, actually, dominionenergy.com/help.
Okay.
Will give you kind of a comprehensive list of, state, local, federal assistance programs that you can apply for. Of course, Energy Share. Energy Share, I think, is both in the summer and the winter. You can get up to $600 per season assistance. So, that adds up.
Yeah, for sure.
In terms of, helping people meet their monthly obligations.
Right.
So it's a nice program. And of course, the thing, once people have gone through the bill assistance portion of Energy Share, we also do the home weatherizations. And we kind of look at people who kind of have consistent problems with their bills, and we say, okay, well, what's going on there? And we'll take a look at if they qualify. We'll take a look at what's going on in their home and do an energy audit, and we will go and make improvements. A lot of times, the low hanging fruit, it's like insulation.
Yeah.
It's sealing those gaps.
Right.
But sometimes it's upgrading an HVAC or that kind of thing.
Right.
But it's custom solutions for each customer. What I will say there, not just for the people who are our other customers who maybe don't qualify for Energy Share, we do have virtual home energy audits. So you can go on to dominionenergy.com and find that, and you'll answer an online survey. And you talk about your own home energy use habits, and then put in some information about your bill, what that's looking like.
Right.
And we will send you a free kit with different things that are custom built for you. Sometimes it's got a tube of caulk in there, and sometimes it's LED light bulbs, different things that you can deploy in your home to help. And then it's also going to give you tips on maybe some other bigger ticket things that you might need to like an HVAC upgrade or whatever that you might need to do to reach even larger savings.
Yeah. I've got one more question for you, but before I do that,
sure.
I've got one follow-up. Is there anything else from the winter side of things, anything else in terms of kind of saving, not just money, but energy? Any other tips, any other ideas that you've got to convey to folks?
Here's something, and I need to do this myself. I haven't done it. I need to check the water temperature on my heater because I think the optimal, I'm going to double check this, but I believe the optimal temperature is 120.
Okay.
Or no, I'm sorry. That's the default. 120 is what these heaters are typically set at. But 120, if that's like your bath water,
that's hot.
You are going to burn yourself.
That's hot.
So I think we typically recommend people backing it down to like 105.
Okay.
And that's going to lead to some savings. Cool. So that's a big thing. I think we were talking beforehand about smart thermostats.
Oh yeah.
And using those. So you can program these things, or we have a program with Dominion. I think you were saying you've taken advantage of this,
have,
where you can give us access to your thermostat,
right?
And it will make automatic adjustments based on time of use, based on temperatures throughout the day,
right?
But for people who aren't inclined to do that, you can also do a programmed schedule.
Mm-hmm.
There's options for you depending on what you want to do,
and even when you do, in my experience at least, when you do the savings through that program, my schedule's the same.
Yeah,
the thermostat essentially adjusts itself, and then if I'm uncomfortable, I can easily go up, change it, and it just changes. There's no downside to it, really. So for folks who might be interested in that, yeah, you're basically sort of hooking your stuff up to Dominions and saying, yes, please adjust this as needed. And then if you get uncomfortable, you want to make it a little warmer, you go up and you make it a little warmer, and next time it'll do the same thing, and you can sort of just let it learn that way. But no, I've had a lot of great experience with that so far. And
I'll say on a related thing, and you've asked about time of use, and so I'm going to say we do have a time of use program,
right,
which encourages people, like we were saying earlier, you run your major appliances
right
early in the morning or late at night,
right,
and it's going to charge you an adjustable rate. It's an opt-in.
Yeah.
You sign up for this, and if you say, yeah, I can do that, you can get a discounted rate based on, if you're using energy at the lower demand times,
right. Yep.
You can yield some significant savings.
Yeah, that's great. All right, last one. Let me get you out on this. I'm just curious if there are any things people should kind of be looking forward to. It feels like spring is a long ways away because we haven't really gotten to the thick of winter yet.
Yeah.
But the spring going into the summer months, what are some of the things folks should be looking forward to from you guys? Kind of stuff.
Well, the Energy Share winter assistance that we have going on. There's a spring assistance program that is helpful. But a lot of our things, the things that I've mentioned, these are ongoing. These are year round.
Right.
We have, there's some exciting things going on that maybe aren't quite ready to talk about in terms of EVs. We always got kind of new and exciting things happening with EVs. There'll be some announcements about additional public charging stations, cool. Which will be cool. I'd say stay tuned. We're in an exciting field because it's it's quickly evolving.
For sure.
I think we're going to start seeing our offshore wind farm really cranking. We're finishing our vessel right now, so I believe it'll be kind of the end of this year, maybe early next, that you'll start seeing these huge turbines being assembled in about 26 miles off the coast of Virginia Beach, each one of them taller than the Washington Monument.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, Craig, thank you very much for coming back on the show, talking to us about winter and all the fun things. I guess we'll have to have you back down the road.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right. Now, make sure you check us out on social media. On Twitter, it's at Chesterfield VA, and on Instagram, Chesterfield Virginia, all one word. And on Facebook, you can check out our podcast page. Just search Chesterfield Behind the Mic. Now, make sure to follow or subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, or wherever it is that you get your shows. And if you're so inclined to give us a rating or review, we greatly appreciate it. As always, a video version of the show is available on our YouTube channel, as well as on our website, Chesterfield.gov/podcast. That's also where you can submit feedback anytime, make suggestions, or just reach out to us. You can watch the show on WCCT Thursday through Sunday at 7, on the weekends at noon. That's Comcast Channel 98 and Verizon Channel 28. And lastly, check out Chesterfield.gov/connect with us to find out a number of other ways to connect with Chesterfield County. My thanks to my director, Martin Stith, my executive producer, Teresa, Bonifas, and all the good folks from Constituent and Media Services for all they do. And my thanks to you for joining us today. So from all of us here in Chesterfield, thanks again for making us a part of your day. We'll see you again real soon. Take good care. From blogs to podcasts, and I'm very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again. Newsletters to alerts, social media, the latest community news.
Welcome to the latest installment of This Week in Chesterfield.
How to get in touch, and everything in between. If you want to know about Chesterfield County, our Connect With Us webpage has you covered. Chesterfield.gov/connect with us. Connect with us, your source for all things Chesterfield.